Author Cindy Koepp is writing on the edge. Books include Remnant in the Stars, The Loudest Actions, Lines of Succession, Mindstorm, Condemned Courier, the Yerushalayim series, and Animal Eye. Find author Cindy Koepp at CKOEPP.com today.
Welcome to Clever Title Pending, a proud member of the Rising Tide Broadcast Network. We talk to creatives about creativity and the business behind them. So type in your questions and become part of the conversation. And now, here's your host, Brian K. Morris.
Welcome to everybody. Welcome to Clever Title Pending. Had you fooled. Thought you were in Nevermind the Furthermore. Well, so did I for a minute or two. But anyway, we're glad you're here because we've got a great guest on tonight. Somebody we adore. Somebody who's a mainstay of the Rising Tide community. And we expect some great questions from all of you and maybe a joke or two. But we have that covered, if you will. So anyway, thank you for being here tonight on the May 18th, 2021 edition of Nevermind the Furthermore. And first of all, thank you to the Rising Tide Broadcast Network for powering this show. Please take a screenshot of this, if you would, please, because we've got your entertainment and your educational stuff all wrapped up for you 7 days a week. Please check out these shows. A lot of great content and stuff that you can use, especially if you are creative. And we also want to thank our Patreon subscribers. Patreon is a monthly subscription service where for a modest amount of money you can directly support your favorite creators, such as myself. And for that money, though, we give you stuff in return, like mentions on our programs, mentions in our publications, as well as weekly blogs and works in progress and all kinds of cool stuff. Anyway, check us out at www.patreon.com/Brian K. Morris. And speaking of stuff we've got going on, please check out the Snow Short series, Snow Ambition, the fourth in the series, written by myself, available now on Amazon from Ben Books. And we can wait no longer. We are going to get everything set up here so that we can bring out the one, the only, Cindy Koepp. Cindy, how are you tonight?
Well, hello there.
It's good to have you here. It's been too long.
It has. I'm glad I got to come play.
Yeah, there we go. And we've you probably you were going to see it in the next few seconds here. Let me let's see. Yes, there we go. As we have been talking about for the last week or so, Cindy has a Kickstarter campaign going right now for her very first comic book based on her novel Animal Eye. We'll be talking about that soon. But anyway, she is let's see, what is it? $184? Is it?
180. Oh yeah, 184.
Wow, and to think I bailed out on liberal arts because they had a math requirement. Anyway, please check out the address. Check out this wonderful Gamelit comic book. It's an all-ages comic, which we don't have enough of. And Cindy has written one, and I can tell you from personal experience, it is a beautiful book. I really love it, and I'm looking forward to the rest of it. So anyway, welcome to everyone here in the chat. We will be bringing your comments in as soon as we can. But first of all, let's give the spotlight to Cindy here. Cindy, tell everyone how awesome you are, and what they can, what about your books? What is Gamelit? What the heck is Gamelit?
I'm Cindy Koepp. I write science fiction, fantasy, Gamelit, teacher resources, and I crochet critters. Gamelit is a story that takes place within the game world. So instead of watching the game from the outside, you follow the characters from inside the game. Some examples that you might be familiar with, the more recent Jumanji movies are gamelit. Tron from eons ago. There's a bit of discussion about, but Ready Player One fits in that arena. And in Animal Eye, there are two playtesters named Kinmei and Jake. They're testing out a late beta version of a game that was converted from a kid's game with lots of educational phenomena into an adult game. And as they're tracking through the world, they're learning how to fly like birds, run like a dog. The dog can smell things, and that appears as text on the screen. The bird is gradually learning how to talk, and at first is just good at mimicry, but later on starts to put together full ideas and thoughts. And they're helping their respective humans figure out maniacal killers who are wandering the countryside, laying waste to small villages and farmhouses and random travelers.
Beautiful, beautiful. And now we're going to give everyone a view of the campaign. There it is. Excuse me. Yeah, just like we said. And it did go up, didn't it?
Yeah, gained another 15.
Excellent. Thank you to whoever did that. So please, let's see if we can get Cindy to her goal of $3,400 tonight. I think that would be fantastic. And like I've said in some promos that I've done for this book this week, Cindy is truly rising tide. And I'm not saying that because she's here. I don't have to be nice. I got the gig. But she does so much for us, and she makes sure we get good and promoted. And I think it's only time to repay the love. This is rising tide. And she has sown her seeds, and now it's time for everyone to basically pay her back for all the great things she does for us. Even $1 will help her. All right. So, but if you can get find in your heart to contribute a little bit more, and you will not be charged for another 20 days. That's another nice thing about Kickstarter. But it's a beautiful campaign, a beautiful book, and she has made so many great strides with this book. I was telling her before the show how very proud I am of her. And so anyway, it was, I guess, both to a more intimate setting here. What made you decide to create, you've written a number of novels, you've written a bunch of short stories, and go to her Amazon sales page, which you'll find the link above if you're on Facebook and down below if you're on YouTube. What inspired you to make a comic book out of your latest novel, Animal Eye?
Travis.
Thank you. Have a nice evening, everyone. Drive home safely. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Travis is the publisher. He's Bear Publications, he and his wife. And Animal Eye, the novel, published about this time last year. And about 2 months after that, Travis contacted me and said, do you think it would work as a comic book? Because he's been looking for ways to get into a more visual form of the arts, because he thinks that's where the trends are heading. And I tend to think in pictures when I write, and so I knew that could work. I just had no clue in the universe how. And since I had the connections within a community that has lots of comic book folk, he suggested I check it out, and then you gave me a whole pile of homework to do, which was very educational.
Yeah, and you're still speaking to me. I think that speaks well of you, Cindy.
Well, I learned a lot. I mean, it was mostly geared toward artists, but that taught me the theory behind comic books so that I could then write a more effective script, keeping in mind what Raoul is going to have to do with the artwork.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Very good. And let's see. And like, how many pages is Animal Eye? And it's part of a 6-issue series, correct?
Right.
Okay.
The Animal Eye novel is 700 pages. That's 175,000 words, which is about double the length of a normal novel. The Animal Eye comic book is 6 24-page books.
Mm-hmm. And your Kickstarter campaign, of course, Kickstarter is notorious for the cool, super cool thank you gifts that you can get. And tell us about some of the extra stuff they can get, not just the Animal Eye in physical and ebook form, and also, well, I'll let you explain the rest. What can people look forward to if they pledge to your campaign tonight?
Well, when we were putting together the reward tiers and things like that, Travis did some digging and came up with Printify, which is a print-on-demand manufacturer of book swag, among other things. And they have divisions all over the world, and so we were able to circumvent some of the completely insane shipping prices to international. It can still get kind of up there depending on what the object is, because they don't produce all the things in all the places.
Yeah.
But where possible, the shipping costs are much less than it would be if we were flying strictly out of a United States printing shop. So among the things that we can do, coffee mugs. There are several designs of coffee mugs, some with the characters, some with the Animali logo in all 4 of the languages. Let's see, there's a backpack, there are pet tags, tapestries, tote bags. What other kinds of weirdness are there? There's a travel mug, a big steel travel mug. There are enamel bowls that you can use for snackage. I think they were meant to be dog food bowls, but hey, you could repurpose it.
There you go.
Let's see, other strange stuff. We also isolated some of Raoul's artwork from the various panels to turn into digital art posters. And each of the levels comes with at least one of those. There's also either ebooks or the physical book of the novel that will come with it. And let's see, other kinds of interesting shenanigans. Some
good. A lot of art there, plus a breakdown of the budget.
Mm-hmm.
And
Travis figured out how to make NFTs. So if you pledge at one of the 2 highest levels, you can get 1 or 3, depending on which level, NFTs with featuring artwork from the comic.
Wow, really? I think it's the first time I've seen any. Honestly, I don't think I've seen any campaign have an NFT yet. That's amazing. Pardon me. And plus, there is a level for retailers that if you want to carry this book in your comic shop, this is your opportunity, along with 10 copies of the comic, a digital poster, digital branded mini print, shelf talker, and domestic shipping included. And also you can get with your store name and logo. And there's the mug and other stuff. That's
cool.
That's a cool looking logo there. And as you see, the more you pledge, the more you get. And there's another retailer level there. And there's the backpack. That's awesome.
Yeah, the backpack, there are actually 2 different versions. One showing the transformation art, and that actually has both Kin May's transformation and Jake's. And the other one shows the art for the characters.
Mm-hmm. And then here's one where you get the NFT. I missed that one. I pledged. And also crocheted critters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I designed patterns for a crow, a bear, and a dog. I went hunting to find a commercial pattern that I could use just so that I would have something more reliable and faster to make, but they were all labeled that you could not sell the products thereof, and so I designed my own.
There you go. Very resourceful. Man, look at all this stuff. Definitely go to Kickstarter and check that out right darn now. That is so cool. Let's get to some of the comments that we've got here from some of our. No, I didn't mean you. You get back to where you belong. Thank you. There you go. It's me and Cindy now. Okay, there we go. And we want to say hello to Teresa Dunn. Good evening to you. To Ninja Genko. Good to see you. And let's see here. Carl Witzman. Hello. Good evening, everyone. And the life of Brian. Yes, I am everywhere. I'm everywhere. And knock, knock. Who's there? Cindy. Cindy, next one in. Okay. And that's okay. No, that's all right. And Carl Witzman says it's okay, Teresa, just a joke based on a movie title. And Carly, mwah to you. Good to see you. And Carl Witzman says if kissing a raw fish gives you salmonella, what did Prince Charming get after kissing Cindy? Cinderella. I think we know who's doing the jokes tonight. And Clyde Hall, who was one of the people endorsing this project on the Kickstarter campaign. Carl, Carly, Teresa, Deninja, plus BKM and Cindy. Good evening. Rising Tiders Assemble. You got that right. And everyone's saying hello. And then, of course, endorsed by Rising Tide Publications. Actually, I can say that because I am a backer of this project. I got in on the ground floor, I'm glad to say, and I'm really astonished, pleasantly surprised, I guess I should say, that it has taken off like it has. For your first campaign, for one thing. So that is very cool. And Dan Hollefeld made it. Dan, who is on Stupid O'Clock every Thursday evening at 9 and Saturday nights at 11 p.m. on the Rising Tide Broadcast Network. Good to see you on Legend of the Traveling TARDIS a little while ago on Christian Basil's show. It was a good time. Thank you, Christian, for having us. And you sure are, Michaela. Glad to see you, hon. Mwah. Good to have you here. And Ryan Permison says, hello, everyone. How are you? Got vaccinated today and it went well, and you're still alive. Well, good for you. See, and I hope you're feeling well. I hope you haven't had any side effects either. And yay, Cindy from Michaela Jade. And Keisha Acuff, hello, beautiful people. Hello, you. And Cindy is a #1 promoter for the network and the folks here. Definitely. Most definitely. And like I said, this is a chance for everyone to please hop aboard the Animal Eye Express, and let's show Cindy some love tonight, shall we? All right. And Ryan Permison says, congratulations, Cindy, on your Kickstarter. Can't wait to read Animal Eye book and comic book, especially to introduce it to my niece and nephew.
That would be fabulous.
That is fantastic. And you shared. Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate you so much. And Jeffrey Hayes of Plasma Fire Graphics, when the look of your book matters to you, also sponsoring this episode. Good evening, Brian and Cindy. Congrats on the super strong showing on your Kickstarter and your first comic. Yay. And hope to meet you at both at a convention one day. You are wonderful people. She is wonderful. I'm an ogre.
Thanks.
Yeah, she is fun. And Molly Daniels, good to see you here. Hi, Cindy. Hope to meet you June 5th at QuadCon.
June 5th. That's Peoria?
I don't think you're right.
I don't think I'm at that one. That Peoria is a bit of a road trip for me.
Well, that's true. You live in the wilds of Iowa. So. Well, actually,
in the middle of the cornflats.
Yeah, no, that's what's called Illinois. No, I'm trying to think. From where I think I remember you say you live. Well, it's about a 6-hour drive, or no, not quite 6 hour. Probably about 4 hour, maybe. We'll have to find out.
I'll look it up if it's within range. I have to juggle it around the work schedule, because I don't. Driving at 3 a.m. is just not safe for humans.
I understand. I'm the only one out. So, and Ryan Permison says, here's the first question of the night. Does the reader have to read the book before reading the Animal Eye comic?
No, not at all. The way that I built the comic book script was I took the novel, split it into six pieces parts, and then split each of those 6 parts into 24 parts. Mm-hmm. And then split each of those 24 parts into panels. So it follows the entire story. Now, there are things that are in the novel that are not in the comic book because they just wouldn't fit. Mm-hmm. There are a couple of sub-quests, especially toward the beginning when they're just starting to level up. But there are things in the comic book that aren't in the novel, too. Like you get introduced to the maniacs far sooner in the comic book than you do in the novel. Mm-hmm. In the novel, you get a good chunk of the way in before you find their first maniac.
Uh-huh. There we go. Now, what was the hardest part about, going through your book, your original prose book, and deciding what was to go into the comic? What was the hardest part about that? What did you base your decisions on, what to cut and what to keep?
I focused mostly on what do I need to have in there to be able to progress the plot, not necessarily things that would drive the game development, because in the book there are a lot of the subquests that are in there that don't relate directly to the plot are there to justify level ups. So enough stuff happens and they get enough experience to justify leveling up a 1 or 2 levels. And in the comic book that's less of a priority. Also, a lot of the dialogue got sliced and diced like a Cuisinart, just because it wouldn't fit. I saw some of it was kind of clever, and Ava's human or Ava's player, Kinmei, has my wild sense of humor with the be a normal person filter turned off. uh, so yeah, she's wisecracking all over the place, and yeah, although that's amusing to me, that didn't fit, and so a lot of that had to go. So the tricky bit was slicing out the parts that weren't absolutely necessary to move the plot.
Yeah. Well, did you have anything that you had to cut where you're like, no, don't make me cut this, but your editor half said no, it's got to go? Was there anything where it really hurt to let it go from the comic book?
Yeah, there were a couple of one-liners where Kinmei cracked a funny, and I thought it was hilarious. But and I really wanted to keep it in there, and it survived in there through several rounds of slicing and dicing, and finally it was like, yeah, that's still too much text on a page. Something's got to go. That's the only part that's not absolutely necessary.
Yeah, I get it. I totally get it. Ryan Permison also asks, would you like to see any of your books adapted as a film or TV series?
That would be cool. I don't think all of them would survive the translation well, but the ones that would be just absolutely fantastic. Some of them would definitely survive the translation better, but I wouldn't even know how to go about that. But then again, this time last year, I had no clue in the universe how to make a comic book, so
there we go.
Anything could be learned.
That's true. Which of your books or stories do you think would be best for a larger visual audience for TV or movies? Which do you think would have the most potential?
First up, Mindstorm, because in its history, if you track it back far enough, Mindstorm started off as Star Wars fanfic. You'd never know it reading it now. But it started off as a spin-off from a Star Wars fanfic, and then I decided to, I could expand this short story into something much more significant and lose all the Star Wars references, and it still works. Animal would come in a close second because it's very visual. I get to describe what it's like to fly like a bird, but being able to see what it's like to fly like a bird would be even more fun.
It would be. Now, you mentioned, you mentioned fan fiction. Have you written a lot of fan fiction?
Not lately, but yes, I often use fan fiction as a way to teach myself how to do things. The Star Wars fanfic was because I was writing a fantasy novel that involved a lot of rapier combat. And I have experience in rapier combat in two different styles, but translating that onto paper was a challenge. And so I wrote some Star Wars fanfic, and there were a lot of lightsaber battles, and in the midst of all that, I figured out how to write a choreographed fight.
That's cool. Well, speaking of lightsabers and other bladed weaponry, the Historical Fencing Guild, Friday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central on YouTube. Hello, Clever Morians. I am so proud of what the amazing Cindy Koepp is doing.
Thank you.
So are we all. And Ryan Permison says, I've interviewed Cindy. She is an amazing person and so supportive of others. Fully agree. That's why we got her.
Thanks for that.
Yeah. And Grant Lankard, hello to you. Glad you're here. Dan Hollifield was smiling at us all, and everyone saying hello to everybody. Hello. Howdy, cuties. Howdy, Keisha Cuff. And they're ignoring us now. They couldn't care if we exist at all. I know. It's got to have a strong ego on this show. Rocky, Janet, Dr. Scott, Brad. I think you wandered into the wrong movie. Yeah. And yes, the Kickstarter is doing really well. And
we're almost there. Yeah,
seriously. I just refreshed my screen, so hopefully it'll bring good news. So anyway, we have about 45 backers. We'd love to see it get fully backed before the end of the show. You've got 5 minutes. Anyway, no. And Michaela J says, that's so awesome. Love all the different levels. Very cool. And Ryan Permison says, if you have any leftover backpacks, I'll take one. Well, You rather than gamble, Ryan, I think you should secure one. And if you go onto the Kickstarter platform, you'll be able to get your own along with other cool stuff and be the envy of your peer group.
Yeah, you could do add-ons. Actually, we're not printing spares of all the book swag. It's a print-on-demand company, so we're going to order exactly the thing that we need.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I can see that, and it makes a lot of sense because unless you think you can sell it at shows or something, that stuff's just going to sit in your house. So
right, yeah.
Well, you could you'd have like put all your books in a backpack and have a special price for them and include the backpack.
There's that. See, yeah,
I'm good with other people's businesses. and Keisha Koepp says, okay, so I might need a higher level. Yes, you should. And definitely you can add on to your pledge. And it is highly encouraged, and hopefully we'll get some more people looking at Animal Eye tonight. And from the desk of Small Press Publisher, hi all, good to see you, Jody McPhee. Glad to have you here. And how is the Rising Tide's favorite person outside of Brian? That would be anyone. And Brian Rodman, good to see you, sir. Cindy. Look at those exclamation points. Holy cats, he's serious. I gotta brag on you like crazy at work today. I love telling the story you shared about learning all the Pokemon so you could interact with your students. # best teacher ever. Why don't you tell that story right now? Because you were in the teaching profession, and you did write some material for teachers to use in the classroom. Why don't you tell everyone this story, if you would, please, if you don't mind.
Okay. After I got out of college with a bachelor's in wildlife sciences, I went to work as a tech support agent. You can see the connection. I did that for a while, bounced out one job after another job after another job because the companies would shut down almost as fast as they opened. So I decided to go back to school, and I had about 2 years to figure out what to do, and what I could do in 2 years was get a teaching certificate. Well, I've always enjoyed explaining to people how to do stuff. So I thought, okay, I can do this. And so I had to pick a specialization. I used my ecology degree as a science specialization. And it was there were some unfortunate adventures along the way, but I did end up with my teaching certificate. My first, actually, it was my student teaching year that I was in a second grade classroom, and that was just when the whole Pokemon thing was starting to explode in the United States. And so all these little second graders were determined to have every single Pokemon and all their lovely stats memorized. I wasn't quite that into it, but to be able to carry on a conversation with them in a semi-coherent way, I started learning all the different Pokemon, at least the first 100 or so. I can't quote the stats for you. I don't even know the evolution patterns, but if you told me that you were playing a game with Charizard, I knew which one that was and what he could do with it. And after that year, I went into a half-year teaching sort of a grab bag where I taught everything from kindergarten through 6th grade for about an hour a day.
Wow.
And so all the little kids, anyone under 3rd grade, was seriously into Pokemon. And so I based some of our lessons, I was the science lab teacher, I based some of our lessons on Pokemon so that we could, when I was teaching them how to sort things, I got a bunch of Pokemon cards. And so, it's like, okay, here, sort these and be prepared to tell me how you sorted them. What was your category? And so then they had to create a key so that if I picked up a card, I could follow their key and figure out which card I had. Then after that, I ended up in 4th grade, teaching 4th grade for almost the entire rest of my career. There were a couple more years where I did strange grab bag jobs where it was pretty much anything they could shove into a job description. That was me. But the rest of the time was 4th grade. And the 4th graders were still pretty excited about Pokemon. Especially the ones who had trouble with learning how to read. I did have some 4th grade students who could not read in either language because I taught in districts that had a high Hispanic population.
Oh wow!
And so I found some Pokemon mini novels that were written at a second grade level, and I used those to form book clubs so that these kids who could barely read at half our grade level had something that looked like a chapter book that they could read. And it was a high interest thing because they were seriously still into the Pokemon.
Very cool. Very cool indeed. I love that. And Brian Rahman says, if you don't back Animal-Eye, you don't like happiness. That's right.
Happiness is Animal-Eye.
That's right. And Animal-Eye is happiness. It's a circle. Life is a circle. And we are at 3251 with 46 backers. That's that's $149 to go. Please keep. I feel like I'm on a telethon here. I really want this to happen. I really do. Please check out Animal-Eye and please support Cindy Koepp's work. It is great. And congratulations from Teresa Dunn. Teresa, have a great rest of your night. Mwah. Sorry you have to go. And Brian, the beautiful ogre. Thank you, Keisha. Thank you, Keisha. I love you too. Brian Rodman continues. My coworkers in the tech shop are all gamers, and they loved the concept of this story. Cindy, what was your greatest inspiration for creating this story?
My parrot. I had an African gray parrot named Masika, and she was a rescue bird. She was at least 40 when I got her.
Wow.
And I had her for about 15 years. But she was just flat crazy. Was not the cuddliest bird you've ever met. In fact, it wasn't until I'd had her for about 10 years before I could even pick her up and hold her on my hand. Wow. She had a very, very rough beginning, but she was an engineer. I had to padlock her door closed because she would take apart the bolts and get the door open. Or she would pull pegs loose from the bird food doors, and then push the bird food out, and then step out of the cage.
Wow.
I mean, I got her puzzle toys. African Greys are notorious puzzle solvers. So I got her some puzzle toys, and she would solve that thing in 5 minutes or fewer, or break it and get into it anyway. And she was going to get there one way or another. Mm-hmm. So the original version of Animal-Eye was actually not a gamelet story. It was a quest-based fantasy called Bird's Eye, the novel in need of a better name.
I love that. I love that.
And it never quite clicked. I had an African Gray and a huge fuzzy dog. And those were the main characters, but they were literally an African Gray and a huge fuzzy dog. They were not being played by other characters. And it never worked. But I wrote a gamelet story called The Fall of the Invincible Man before I knew what gamelet was. Mm. It's in an anthology called The Avatars of Web Surfer. And after that was published, a pal of mine who had read the story contacted me and said, "You need to check out this podcast. This sounds like your story, Invincible Man." And so I go and check it out, and it's describing gamelet and how gamelet is a story that takes place inside of a game, and you follow them through the quests and until they reach the resolution of the game. Like, that is a thing. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
So the whole Avatars of Web Surfer anthology, with a few tweaks, could be turned from what it was, which was a near cyberpunk story, into a gamelet fairly easily. Mm-hmm. So the publisher was Bear Publications, and I contacted them and explained to them what my idea was. They contacted the gal Andrea Graham, who had started the anthology. She wasn't interested in converting it. Mm. And well, okay, that's fine. But in the course of the discussion, I mentioned that I had this quest-based fantasy that would work as gamelet if I tweaked it. And that started the conversation between me and Travis about converting Bird's Eye into Animal-Eye. The African Gray that was based on my parrot became Ava the Crow. His idea was that, parrots are funny and all that, but the average gamer probably doesn't much care about parrots, but crows are fun. And originally the conversion was to a raven, but I kept describing the bird like a smaller bird, like an African Gray-sized parrot. And so we converted the raven into a crow because crows are roughly the same size, and it fit much better.
Very cool. Now, are you still a bird mom?
Not anymore. Masika was quite old, and she had a very, very rough start. We're not really sure where her story started, but by the time she got to the lady who eventually rehomed her with me, she had been put on consignment in a mom and pop pet store that went out of business and stuck all their birds in a warehouse.
Oh no!
And maybe showed up once in a while, throw some food in there, maybe clean a cage once a year, maybe. But it was a bad situation, and so we're not real sure how old she is. But yeah, she. I had her for about 15 years.
Wow.
My current roomies are not real keen on birds. Make too much ruckus, far too much noise, and way more mess.
Yeah.
There is no such thing as a clean parrot.
No.
They ruffle their feathers, bird dust flies out in a cloud, and bird seed flies across the room at a significant fraction of light speed. And if it's a larger bird, that could include toy parts. So, so I was asked to refrain from getting another one, and so I do not have a bird at this time.
Okay, I'm sorry to hear that. But who knows? Maybe. Oh, we're up to 47 backers, 32.66.
Woohoo!
Yes, $134 left to go. Folks, thank you very much for your support of this project, and we hope that you will continue to check out Animal Eye for the duration of the show and maybe longer. And if you've already pledged, please consider adding an extra dollar or two to it as well. And the Historical Fencing Guild now ought to be the Hysterical Fencing Guild because they give us a joke. How do you contact an author? Call their pager. That's good because Cindy usually gives us the jokes tonight, and I also got a classic jokes for writers here. What do you get when you cross a writer with a deadline? A really clean house. And all the writers right now are going, yeah, amen. So, from Joe D. McPhee, from the desk of a small press publisher, question I didn't ask during my show. Yes, Cindy was on Joe D. McPhee's show very recently. Please check that out. It is really a really good interview. Assuming that you like scripting for comics, would you develop an intellectual property that is not related to any of your other works?
If I come up with a brilliant idea that is suitable, sure. I have a formidable collection of ideas, and some of them I think would work okay as a comic book. Some of them certainly wouldn't. But when I can come up for air, because we have some other stuff in the works with Animal Eye, even aside from the comic book miniseries, there's more stuff happening. And when I can come up from air from that and start looking at another project, then that's certainly a possibility.
Very cool. And you never know, Travis may want to get a comic book division, to his Bear Publications. And by the way, Travis, if Cindy's too busy for something, never mind. Anyway, always promote, especially yourself. Clyde Hall says, hello, Cindy and Brian. Cindy, congrats on waging a great Kickstarter campaign. What's your Animal Eye, the motion picture dream cast? Oh, I see that look, that horrified look on her face. This is good work, Clyde. Good work.
It would either have to be mostly CGI or it would have to be cartoonish. I'm really, really terrible at actor names. Let's see. If we go for the CGI route, the bird and the dog are taken care of by the computer.
That was easy.
Woo! And so is the bear. The bear is too. So that leaves us with Kin Mei, who is Ava's player, Jake, who is Nagid's player, Alan Ivan Turning, who is the AI, Raphael Dorcas, who is Nagid's human, and Aussie Bente, who is Ava's human. So it leaves us a fairly smallish cast. That's a really good question that I'm not sure how to answer.
I figured out one. The AI has to be Alan Cummings.
Okay.
From Spice World and Reefer Madness. He was in an episode of Doctor Who in Jodie Whittaker's first year.
Okay.
Very versatile actor, but he has that kind of dashing elan that I think would be good for the AI. So, okay, I've cast one member. Now the rest is up to you. So anyway, while she's ruminating on that one, Rick Bradley, good evening to you. Glad you're here, superstar. And why did the tomato blush? Because it saw the salad dressing. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And Keisha Acup says, I love Pokemon. I still play it. Hey, it's still very popular. It was in the news recently, in fact, with Target and all taking the decks out of the place because some mayhem was happening. So, Rick Bradley said, "Did you hear about the cheese factory that exploded in France? There was nothing left but debris." And from the desk of a small press publisher, that is precious. Cindy going around teaching kids the polka rap. Oh, yeah.
They were actually very skilled in that by themselves.
Yeah. Probably taught you a thing or two, right? But that's the thing. It's a lot of teachers, like when I was growing up, they didn't bother to use things that we could relate to. Mm-hmm. And I think it's great that you found something like this. I have one of my friends taught English in a relatively small school a few years ago, and he had like a literature class that was populated by mostly people who were on the economically disadvantaged spectrum, let's call it. Right. And he was telling them things like, like people like Alfred Lord Tennyson was the first rapper. And, getting him to study like the different types of, like Shakespeare used iambic pentameter and, like the various forms of poetry writing. And the kids were getting into it, just kind of like opened up a door for them. So let's see, here we go. I'm sorry, go ahead.
If you can connect what you need them to know to something they already know, it's faster and easier and sticks longer.
Yeah, exactly. And plus they'll pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's like, like a French teacher, my wonderful French teacher who I'm still friends with, he taught me some things the school board probably would have been very upset with him about, but he knew that's the sort of thing that a 16-year-old me was interested in. So we will not discuss it on the air. There still could be a liability issue. Anyway, Holly Daniel says, someone at karaoke last week sang the Pokemon theme song. I was singing along to the shock of many of my older friends. I watched the original shows with my kids. Well, there you go. Molly, glad you're here, hon. And Rick Bradley says, Cindy, I know many college kids and adults that are still excited about Pokemon.
Well, because they were that age.
Yeah.
They would now be the age when Pokemon was just becoming the thing. Mm-hmm. In fact, I currently work in a bank as a technical writer, and at some big team event, my boss and one of the other people were sitting behind me as we were watching a baseball game, and they were talking about how they feel so old, and I'm older than both of them. And I turned around and said, you know what made me feel old? Most of our department could have been one of my 4th grade students.
Oh, God. God, my heart. Oh, man. Wow. Well, you mentioned technical writing for a bank. What does that entail?
I either help the submitter write the document, or they submit a document that's already written, and then my job is to go through there and clean up all the grammar and make sure that all the style things match up. Make sure all the parts are there. Mm-hmm. There are some parts that are required. Make sure everything's going to fit in the format that the publisher is going to need, because the software we're using has some limitations on some fields. Okay. And then once I'm done with that, I have to send it for approval. Once I get that back, then I upload it, and the group that sets up our assignments runs it through the approval process, sends it back to us so that we can publish the silly thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. Is that like content writing to a degree? like for a website or something, or?
There's a bit of that, but most of it's procedural.
Okay. All right.
It's like how do you set up an account for somebody, or
Ah,
what do you have to keep in mind if you're dealing with this Service Members Civil Relief Act?
mhm,
Um, some of it gets really pretty complicated. Some of it's letters.
mhm.
So if someone has defaulted on a loan, I get to edit the letters to make it sound so that it doesn't sound like, and you're a complete dork because you didn't pay your bill on time. So now we're going to come back and take all your toys.
There we
You
go.
can't quite say it like that. So I have to make it more customer friendly.
This is why I don't go into that sort of writing. I'm totally unqualified. And Cindy, I know many college kids and adults that are still excited about Pokemon, and the Ninja Genko grins at that. And Dan Holofield, thank you, brother. Appreciate you
Yay!
so much. And just back the Kickstarter, says Rick Bradley, you're $15
Woohoo!
closer. And in fact, you are now under $100.
Wow!
You are at 3306 with 49 backers. Thank you very much. Another $94. And Cindy doesn't have to talk to me for the rest of the evening. Save this woman. Save this woman from the torment. Anyway, bird's eye, ho, 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 ho. That's what I was thinking too. And Bobby Nash, good to see you, brother. BobbyNash.com. Check it out. Also check out Snow Shorts. The latest edition, number 4, has my story, Snow Ambition. Bobby, glad to have you here. Hope all is going well. And let's see, we have more jokes here. Rick Bradley says, what's the difference between a poorly dressed man on a unicycle and a well-dressed man on a bicycle? A tire. I love this. We had just turned the show into jokes, I'm telling you. If Animal Eye were to be made into a video game, says Rick Bradley, what genre would you think it would be?
It's funny you mentioned that, because one of the other projects that's currently in the works, Travis contacted me a few weeks ago and said that he is in negotiations with a small gaming company up here in the Midwest to turn Animal Eye into 1, possibly 2 games. One of them would be a desktop game that follows the actual plot of the book. And the other a sort of platform game and on the mobile devices where it's mini quests based on a series of short stories that I've written.
Very cool.
And so, yeah, that is a thing that could still happen. I'm still in the process of pulling together all my notes. They wanted all of my notes, everything, and I'm thinking to myself, you have no idea what that involves. I have.
Why do I hear this large
pages.
truck like?
Yeah, right. So, how do you want me to send that to you? In a paper box, or electronic files through e-transfer? I mean,
Yeah.
you have no idea how much information that is.
Oh wow.
So, in and around trying to keep the Kickstarter flying and all the stuff that goes with that, and prepping for QuadCon, I'm also pulling together all my notes for Animal Eye from the very beginning, and the translation into a gamelet story, and plotting out the novel. So because what I had written down as a plot and what I ended up with as a plot, they're close. They're real close, but there are significant differences. So it's like, okay, yeah, this will be a while, but we're not on any kind of deadline, and so that's fine. And
That's good. Now, do you think you'll be actively involved in the scripting of these games?
I'm not sure, but I kind of hope so. Just simply because I know the game better than they do. They know the gaming part, but I know the story part.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense. I think that is so exciting. That really is. And Brian Rodman asks, what is green and has wheels? Grass. I lied about the wheels. That's great. And Clyde Hall asks, why is John Milton terrible to invite to game night? Because when he's around, there's a paradise lost. And all the literary people are just laughing their butts off. Anyway, Clyde Hall asks, Cindy, you've written a lot! ! What's the best or most memorable thing a reader said to you about one of your books?
One of the readers told me that that the book reminded him of stuff written by a Mercedes Lackey.
Ooh. Wow.
Specifically Mindstorm and Line of Succession.
Nice.
And that was like, wow, really? That's a nice circle to travel in.
Yeah. Wow. That is a compliment. That Mercedes is my wife's favorite author.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And to show my love for her, Mercedes Lackey showed up at Gen Con one year, and I have never stood in line for 3 hours for anybody but that.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a line.
Yeah, and and she every now and then she's like, "Well, maybe I should like pare down my library." I said, "You get rid of those books, I will break your arm." It's like I didn't stand in line for 3 hours just for you to contemplate giving that away. Brian Rodman says, Clyde Hall, that joke just gave me indigestion. And for the death of a small press publisher, sadly, I wasn't into Pokemon. I was a Yu-Gi-Oh guy. That's okay.
Yeah. I got into Yu-Gi-Oh when it also came out because my fourth grade students at that time were seriously getting into Yu-Gi-Oh. Some of them were still Pokemon fans, but then there was a second division that was all about Yu-Gi-Oh.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't become quite as well versed in Yu-Gi-Oh as I did in Pokemon, just because the cartoons had flashing lights now and then for some of the effects, and so I couldn't watch that as closely. But I still got to the point where I could understand a conversation and use Yu-Gi-Oh as an example when it was appropriate.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. I like that. Rick Bradley says, I couldn't figure out why the baseball kept getting bigger. Then it hit me. And Clyde Hall follows up with, I stumped Cindy and I gave Brian Rodman indigestion. My work here is done. Yep. Well done, young man. Well done.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah. And if you like the ongoing rivalry between Brian Rodman and Clyde Hall, check us out Thursday nights on Comic Book Spectrum with Eric Hawkins, or Pornsack Hawkins as we call him now, and myself, where we talk about contemporary comics and comics from the past. And Ted Davies Artistry, good evening to you, my friend. Hope you are doing well. And Historical Fencing Guild says, Brian, you said that wrong. Award-winning author Bobby Nash. That's true. He lets me call him Award. That's because he likes me. We're that close. But yeah, award-winning author Bobby Nash. Well, I guess I'm an award-winning novel. I can't do this anymore because I'm part of Pulp Reality. So I have a legitimate award, not one where I didn't kill someone. So anyway, so moving on, Comics Talk with Pops Van Zandt. Hello, love. You too, Brian. Well, you had me worried for a second there, Pops. Mwah, good to see you, my man. And a video game, awesome, says Rick Bradley. I'd be more than willing to play test any game you need. I'm with him. I'm with him on that. I'm still checking this. Cindy, how often did you find yourself checking your Kickstarter campaign?
Oh, in the first couple of days when there was a lot of movement happening really, really fast, about once an hour. After that, when it started to slow down, it started looking more like a oil painting than a photo finish. I check a few times a day unless someone asks me specifically, and then I'll go check again.
Yeah. Oh, and Molly Dale says, Brian, granddaughter Alex says, hi, Alex, good evening to you. Hope you're doing well. And we also watch Yu-Gi-Oh, says Molly Daniels. And never criticize someone until you've walked a mile in their shoes, says Rick Bradley. That way, when you criticize them, you'll be a mile away and you'll have their shoes. So anyway, and Keisha Jacob says, I can't wait to read Animal Eye. Well, hopefully you'll enjoy it when you get your pledge fulfilled. And we are at $3,306 out of a $3,400 goal with 49 backers. Yay. Again, folks, even $1 helps us out on this. So very, very cool. Thank you, Keisha. Thank you to everyone who has pledged so far, and we are hoping that you do more. So what's next on your plate after Animal Eye? Once you get past the fulfillment, once you get past, the potential, what's your next novel going to be, or your next short story?
I have some invitations to work on some short stories for a few different anthologies. One is a riff on werewolves, from the same group that did the Beauty and Beast one that just came out.
Nice.
And I plan to continue that story. That group of characters started. It's a series of gamelet stories. They started out in Rise and Rescue and did 2 tales in that one, and then they jumped over to When Your Beauty is the Beast, and so then they'll jump again into this werewolf one. And then there's 2 other gamelet anthologies that I'm looking at. The next novel I have in mind, I actually have it drafted, but it really needs to be reworked. It was originally designed as a sequel for Line of Succession, called The Suitable Arrangement. It ended up almost the same size as Animal Eye, and I'm not liking the back third of it. Things happen too easily. And so I need to reconfigure the back third of it, and I'm debating whether or not to leave it as a sequel to Lines of Succession or to spin it off and take it in a different direction.
That's cool. Now, on your Kickstarter campaign, what has been the highs and the lows of this? This can be an emotional roller coaster for a lot of people. Have you found it to be that way?
On and off. I mean, most of the time it's been pretty flatlined. I get yay when I log in and see that the amount has gone up. But initially, we launched on a Thursday on Comic Talk, and then so there was a whole flood of backers on Friday and the first part of Saturday, and then flatline until one of my relatives kicked in and got us up over the 30% that statistically indicates that you're going to fund the rest of it. And it stayed at that 58% for quite a while. And or what felt like quite a while is really, like less than a week, but it felt like for blessed God love it ever. And that was like, oh, come on, go. And and then we had another really large pledge come in. And then after that, it started opening up again slowly, and then gaining momentum again. So we've gained some momentum on what's typically referred to as the dead zone, when you're not supposed to be doing a whole lot of anything. So it's been very much roller coaster.
That's cool. Well, it's good that I'm glad it keeps going up. And now I find myself checking that thing like every few seconds. So, Rick Bradley, I'd like to know, in your ad, where did you get your music? I love it.
You mean the Kickstarter video? The Travis and Tabitha found that. I'm not real sure where they came up with it. It was probably in the YouTube music stuff, because when I sent them my suggestions for music to use in the Kickstarter video, I told them where it came from, and suggested using that if they weren't keen on my suggestions, because that stuff was royalty free and you could play it pretty much anywhere and not get copyright strikes against you and all that kind of excitement. I can tell you it's by the 126ers. That's in the final credits screen that they show, but I don't know exactly where it came from.
Well, we'll run that ad, I think, in just a moment here. But Dan Hollifield says, I've forgotten, how much longer will the Kickstarter run? 20 days to go. So if we can get her like $1,000 a day from this point on,
woohoo!
Yeah. She'll knit everyone a dragon, which, by the way, I do endorse her dragons.
Yay!
So I keep mine by the captain's chair here. So anyway, Rick Bradley asked the ad that Brian runs.
That one. That ad was put together by Frozen Creek Studios, Kylie Jude and her husband. And I'm not sure where that came from. I know she sent me several samples and said, which one of these do you like? And I picked one and it was too long. And so she said, okay, so when we need to cut this, do you have ideas for where? And it's actually fairly repetitive. And every time it repeats, it adds something else in there. Like first time it's just a couple instruments, and then it adds in a drum, and then it adds in clapping, and then it slowly backs back off. And And so they compressed it down so it would fit the ad. I'm not sure where she gets her music. I know that she does this professionally, so I'm sure she has resources more interesting than mine.
Yeah. So anyway, Keisha A. Cuff says, I believe they said 20 days. Yes, we did. 20 days left to go, but why wait till the last second? I mean, you're probably going to get a flurry at the last moment, which would be good, but we want to get her well above that right now. We're still at $30,306 out of 3,400, means only 94 more dollars with 49 backers to go. So let's get one more person pledging $94. There we go. Yeah, we can all go home then, right? Anyway, but no, please check that out. And in fact, why don't I run the video for
Okay.
Animal Eye right now? Let me get that set up here. Fill the screen with goodness, and then I did remember to click that little box that has the music. So here we go. Here's Animal Eye, the video.
What if you could see the world like an animal? What if you could soar like a bird? Detect faint smells like a dog? What if a video game allowed you to play an animal character in a unique fantasy setting? What if a comic book series put you in such a video game setting, telling the story from the point of view of animal companions to human characters? Welcome to the world of Animal Eye. This comic book series will follow the adventures of 3 animal characters, Ava the crow, Nagid the dog, and JL the bear. Many fantasy stories feature animal helpers to human characters, especially horses or dogs, but sometimes birds like falcons, or in the case of Animal Eye, a crow. Fantasy-based video games do this as well at times, with human or demi-human player characters in the role-playing video game, with animal assistants in the game available to the main characters as what are, in effect, non-player characters. The Animal Eye story world flips this dynamic on its head. In Animal Eye, the video game player characters are the animals, and the non-player characters are the humans the animals assist. Join playtesters Kim May and Jake as they become Ava the crow and Nagid the dog. In issue 1, each must find a human companion to guide them on their adventures. Ava finds Aussie, Bakari tribesman, archer, and herbalist. Baron Raphael Dorcas, who wields a sword and a flintlock pistol, teams up with Nagid. In the world of Animal Eye, demented monsters are attacking settlements, including Aussie's family. Join Ava and Aussie as they come to JL's aid in a fight against the maniacs. Join Baron Raphael and Nagid as they undergo a parallel adventure battling demented maniacs. Issue 1 lays the groundwork for a unique comic book series in 6 issues, adapted from the novel Animal Eye by Cindy Koepp. An adventure is beginning, an adventure you can join with your support, an adventure where you can become the animal.
That's nice. That's very cool. Very cool indeed. All right, and let's remove that so we get back on the screen here. That was very cool. I like that a lot.
Yeah, Travis and his wife put that together.
They did a super job. They really did on that. And what I liked about it was like about 2 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've seen a lot of Kickstarter videos where it's like 15 minutes later, they're telling me for the 10th time, this is a great project.
Wow.
You know, no. Yeah, I'm serious. You know, some people's like, you know, it's like they're having the telethon. We're gonna be on live until you fund this thing. So anyway, Rick Bradley says I can also stand by her Bernie Sanders. Mine is on my desk, and I love it. She does great work. How long have you been crocheting?
I learned basic crochet stitches from my mother when I was in elementary, and then from my grandmother when I was in junior high. I learned some more complicated stuff, but I've only been doing amigurumi for a few years.
Okay. And for people who may not know what amigurumi is, which I know I've mispronounced, how would you define that?
Crocheted critters.
There you go.
You just crochet the different shapes, and sometimes it's all in one big piece, and sometimes it's modular, and you have to put the pieces together when you're done.
Very cool. Very cool. And also right now, I'm also looking at some of the reactions. Rick, take that angry face down. What did we do to annoy you, sir? But anyway, please give us don't forget, folks, if you're watching us on Facebook, give us a like. Please be sure to share this message because we need to get Cindy's message out. And also, if you're on YouTube, don't forget to give this a thumbs up and to also subscribe to our channel. And also, let's talk about your Patreon account. You have a Patreon account as well. Do you want to tell everyone what they get if they sign up for your Patreon account?
On my Patreon account, there are several different levels. At the $1 level, you get a shout out in my newsletters, and on my con table, I have a sign that lists out my different Patreon backers. At any level above that, you get access to the various posts that I make, and lately it's been alternating posts about Animali, usually showing off some of Raoul's snazzy artwork. The digital ash can was part of that, and then in between those, I'm doing a serial called Freelance Words. Yep, that's where it came from.
The inspiration goes both ways.
And the bad guy is Friedrich Book, FB, who's made droids called algorithms, and that's actually an acronym. And the main antagonist that the good guy faces, his name is Buzzwords. She has powered armor called Boost, and that's also an acronym.
That's
nice.
I love it. I love this.
And Lance Words is Buzz's father, and he's been kidnapped by Friedrich and Ada Vertais, and Lance Buzz is traveling around the countryside, meeting with all of Lance's friends, trying to put together mechanized armor that can take on Ada's mechanized armor.
I love it. It's been a hoot to read. It really has. You are a terrific writer. Also, don't forget CKOAPP.com. If you watch the morning show, never mind the furthermore, you have heard it. So please sign up for Cindy's newsletter. It is bombdigglyicious. It is wonderful. And that's okay, Rick. I figured it was probably an accident of some sort because we love you right back, too. And Molly Daniel says it's bedtime for granddaughter Alex. She liked your video, Cindy, and is now interested in it. She says good night. Good night, Alex. Bye. And Molly, you can also there is a place on the Kickstarter where you can mark it, and you will be reminded to towards the end of the campaign to make your contribution, if you would please. And let's see. And Rick Bradley says that is a great Kickstarter ad. I want the book even more now.
Yay.
And yeah, that's what we're going for. And Rick Bradley asks, what's the best thing about Switzerland? I don't know, but the flag is a big plus.
I actually lost a friend on Facebook because I posted that joke.
Really?
Yeah, he gave me a big frowny face and some snarky comment about how Switzerland is not half of what America is, and then he was suddenly off of my friends list. Like, okay, dude, it's a joke. Laugh, or I might tell it again because I'll think you didn't get it.
Yeah, I don't think he did. Good Lord. Good. Yeah, Facebook is really good at pulling out the people who maybe stand out from the crowd, and not because they're the best and brightest. You know what I'm saying? It separates a lot of chaff from the wheat. And the Historical Fantasy Guild says a lot of fantasy IPs have been ramping up the sex and violence. You have kept this thing very clean. Do you feel that this is the right way to go, or do you consider upping the ratings on your future titles? How much, I guess the question is, knowing that there is an audience for excessive gore, excessive sexuality, how far are you willing to pander, I guess?
I'm not. I will continue to write clean. I'm not a fan of expletives in entertainment. I think there are a lot better ways to get there from here, and people tell me that it's not realistic to have everybody speak squeaky clean, and you're not going to have a biker guy go, golly gee willikers. Well, no, of course not. But there are other ways to get the point across with sarcasm, expressions, just all kinds of stuff. And sexuality, I have no use for sexuality in entertainment. There's just no reason for it. Um, uh, I have been told that I write too clean, and that's why none of my books are not popular. That my sales are down because my work is too clean for adults and not written to a low enough level for children. And Animal Eye actually fixes that problem. It's written at a 4th or 5th grade level, and it's completely safe. But no, I'm not going to up the violence or introduce excess sexuality, or I don't even have romantic subplots in most of my stories. Mindstorm gets the closest. There's a fracas between the lead negotiator and his fiance, but I mean, really, that's as close as it gets, and I'm okay with that. I don't feel the need, and if that means that I reach a smaller audience, then hopefully it's a smaller audience that appreciates clean writing.
There we go. Yeah, and it's not necessarily that you're attracting a large audience. You're attracting the right audience. Seriously. Just to give you an idea, I used to write plays, and one of my plays had a 2-week run at a nearby college. And at the last night, the director came up and got right in my face. And he said, "Brian, I don't believe it. I didn't notice it till now. You've written an adult play and you don't have one dirty word in it." And I'm like, I don't need them.
Yeah.
It's like
better ways to get there.
Exactly. I was like, you can communicate adult ideas without using profanity. So,
And I think it was Louis L'Amour, at least the quote's attributed to him, that said that he had grown up with the roughest sort of men and never felt the need to include any of that in any of his works. And he writes very manly men in those westerns.
Yeah, and he sold a crap ton of books too. So, anyway, Molly Dale says she already has the reminder going. So thank you, Molly. Appreciate you. Love you, hon. And Rick Radley goes, "What building in New York has the most stories? The public library." I remember those. And Keisha Acuff, we are all excited. You are awesome, Cindy. And she goes on to say, "Thank you for keeping it clean. I really appreciate that." Yeah. And honestly, it's like, I'm excited, that it's an all ages comic book. There, you can walk into a comic shop, any comic shop, and there isn't a whole lot of that.
Right.
And we were having a talk about it the other night on the Comic Book Spectrum that when I was younger, we had, we had like Little Lulu, we had Archie, Fox and the Crow, Sugar and Spike, things like that. But we still had comics that were written on a level that was a little bit, let's call it 8 years old was about the median age. But they were still exciting stories. We didn't need to, see, Wonder Woman barely wearing anything. She dressed rather conservatively, in fact, compared to now. But yeah, you don't need any of the trappings of, what was discussed earlier to get across, grown up ideas. So Brian Rodman says, "Cindy, I really appreciate the fact that your story is for all ages. We've discussed, I didn't see this. We can discuss this on Comic Book Spectrum. This is exactly what the industry needs. So thank you." Yeah, there's no real gateway, not many, I should say, gateway comic books where the average kid can go in, even if they have $4, could go in and get, a comic that would interest them. So.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm part of the Comic Launch Pro group, and there are a flood of us that all released at some point in the middle of May. Some of those are all ages books, but most of them aren't. And I mean, and I'm sure there's an audience for that, and they're doing great. Many of them have already funded. But yeah, someone made a call out. It's like, how many other all ages books are there? And there are only 3 or 4 of us who went, me.
Yeah, I understand. Rick Radley says, "I think that if it's forced, violence and sexuality for the sake of violence and sexuality isn't that important. I'm glad you are sticking to your guns and writing the way you want to." And I will say, having read The Ash Can, this is one of those, it's like the comics from my youth. You can read it on a whole bunch of levels. I am of retirement age, and I enjoyed it immensely. And I could also see where somebody like Keisha Acuff or Molly Daniels could give it to their kids or their granddaughters, and find something fun for for them to read, something to get to develop their reading chops.
Mhm.
That I learned to read pretty much from comic books and cereal boxes. So this is a good educational tool, and also you can read to your children too. That's also very cool.
Yeah.
Historical Fantasy Guild Nick Chalkard says, I commend your dedication. You have the standards that few hold to. I find a lot of folks see independent comics as a license for unrated content. Good on you for fighting back. Yeah, seriously. Like I said, it's you're attracting the right crowd, and you can see right here how many people appreciate the fact that you're not pandering to the baser elements, shall we say?
Yeah.
And it would be so easy is the thing. And let's see, I want to get in on the jokes too. Let's see, here we go. Knock knock, Cindy.
Who's there?
Writers go.
Writers go who?
No, writers go. Why did this seem like such a brilliant idea last night? And let's see. A writer walks into a bar. The bartender says, have you written 1,000 words today? You told me not to sell you a drink until you hit your word count goal for the day. A writer walks out of a bar. So, that was good. I like that. Oh, so let's see. If there were anything in this, in your campaign here, is there anything you would do differently next time around? Because this is, for a lot of people, I know a number of people that run a Kickstarter campaign ready to make mistakes and ready to learn from it. What have you learned from this so far that you might not repeat next time, or that you would definitely want to do next time?
I think the structure of it and the way that, we mostly followed the comics launch template. I think the structure of it worked pretty well, and so I would follow through with that again, follow a lot of their recommendations. Something that did not work as well as I expected is that the book swag has not been popular hardly at all. Most of the pledges are at $15 or lower, which is basically the floppy, a couple pieces of digital art, and the ebook of the novel. Mm-hmm. There have been a few pledges higher than that. There have been a few retailers. But yeah,
good.
But most people are dodging the book swag, and so what I might do in the future ones is still have some of those tiers where some of that book swag is available, but have some of the upper level tiers where it's other stuff and not just swag. Mm-hmm. Not sure what that would be yet. Mm-hmm. But it's something to think about, because I mean, when Travis found this Printify thing that you could do print on demand book swag, I thought that would just like fly out the door, and it hasn't really. And I think that's weird.
I wonder if part of it is the fact that right now is tax time.
Yeah. Tax day got pushed a month out, so that's definitely possible. So there could be a lot of people having to pay in because a lot of people were on unemployment, and although they take taxes out of unemployment now in some states, it's usually not enough to cover.
Right.
And so there might be more people who have to pay in.
Yeah, and also it's something that you could not have predicted
when
you launched, the thing, because they kept moving the tax date, back. So, but it's just, that was something I think was just out of your control. So, the fact that you're this far, and I know you're going to make it. I just absolutely know you will make it. So let's see, here we go. More comments. Rick Bradley says, I say that, and there are both in my book, but I'll also have books that will be more clean. Now you'll have one more to put in your collection, Rick. It's all good. Ryan Rodman asks, what do you call a joke that isn't funny? A sentence. Rick Bradley asks, which rock group has 4 guys who can't sing or play instruments? Mount Rushmore. And Brian Robbins says, what do you call 100 lawyers at the bottom of an ocean? A horrible boating accident. I thought you'd say a good start. Anyway, Brian Robbins says, I told my friend she was drawing her eyelashes too high. She looked surprised. And what's worse than finding a worm in your apple? Being robbed. Rick Bradley asks, that joke cracks me up. It chokes me up. Anyway, if you ever get cold, Rick Bradley says, stand in the corner of the room for a while. They're usually 90 degrees. And
Perfect
Brian,
solution.
it's a perfect solution. And see, they're honoring you just as you honor us with your jokes. Yeah, see, they're showing their love. Brian Robin asks, what do you call a pigeon that can't find its way home? A pigeon. And why did the swan hiss? Biologically, it's coded in their genes to do so with threat.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
You got that right. And John B. Pica. Hey there, lovely John. How are you? How about something for Cindy now? Anyway, but no, seriously, thank you, John. I appreciate your being here. And back in the cereal box, Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. rather. And what do you call an idiot's starting Pilates at level 50? Me. That's when you genuinely start to feel your age, John. So John is trying to remake himself, and good luck to you. Seriously, in all seriousness, you're undertaking quite a task. You can do it. You're a lion. You're a champion. You can do this thing, John B. Pica. JohnPica.com. Check out his stuff too. Also subscribe to his YouTube channels. And let's see. There we go. And I keep finding myself looking back at the Kickstarter campaign. I am now taking up the slack for you not checking every 5 seconds. So Rick Bradley asks, why did the taxi driver get fired? Passengers didn't like it when she went the extra mile. Oh, so anyway, Dan Holofield has a comment. What did the cat say to the raccoon? The possum has better manners. Please stop washing your hands in my punch bowl. Now, we know, Cindy, that you're going to be at some of the quad cons this year. And, now we're all getting our shots. Now we're all, looking at, a little bit more protection. What does the convention have to do to get you to show up? What are the things that attract you to a show?
It needs to be close enough that I can get to it, preferably in a day trip. I am trying a new thing where I'm going to try and make the Davenport one where I go out the night before. Because otherwise I have to leave home at some ungodly hour, like 2 hours after I went to bed, and that's just a great way to land in a ditch. The organizer needs to have their stuff together. I like doing the quad cons because John runs a pretty good show. It's very well organized. He has everybody set up so that you're not like right next to somebody who's selling the same kind of stuff you are. Like this past time, I was across from a toy seller. There were Funko Pops across from me and a comic book seller next to me. And the guy behind me was selling just all kinds of stuff. So I was the only one selling novels and dragons. It has to be reasonably priced. There are some events that I looked at and the table rent was several $100s. Like, no. Because I have to be able to make back at least my expenses. For me, a good show is making twice my expenses.
That makes sense. That makes sense. It's good to have a financial goal too. So, very cool, very cool. Now, what other? You mentioned Davenport, Iowa. What other places are you going to be at this summer that you have so far?
IEBE is running one in July here, and I'm going to be at that one. They're also doing one in the fall in Omaha, and I'll be flying or driving over for that one. Let's see, I'm looking at a QuadCon in Dubuque and a second one in Davenport. I'm going to see how this one goes, this one experiment where I drive out the night before, do the event, drive back. And if that goes well, and then I'll sign up for those two. There's also going to be another QuadCon at the end of October here in Des Moines, and so I'll do that one because that's really local. They're talking about one in Omaha the weekend after Turkey Day.
Really?
Wait, no, I don't think that's QuadCon. I think that's a different group.
Okay.
But if that happens, I have to determine whether or not the weather starts getting squirrely in Iowa in late October, first part of November, and road tripping cross country is just not my idea of fun when there's snow and ice on the road. So
yeah, I hear you. That's why I'm reluctant to do this year. I'm booked up until October or so, but after that, I don't know that I'm going to do any shows because I live in the Midwest. You know, we are not notorious for our great weather. Let's see. Here we go. Brian Rodman asks, "What did one stranger say to the other?" Nothing. They didn't know each other. Rick Bradley asks, "What convention is your dream convention to have a table at?" That's an excellent question, Rick. If you had your druthers, what if all the stars aligned and the finances were right, what would be the show you would definitely want to be at?
I haven't gone to very many big shows, so I'm not real familiar with what they're like. I mean, I've heard C2E2 is a real blast. One of these years, PenCon will actually happen. I'm signed up for it, but it got stalled off both times.
Yeah. I feel your pain.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
RodCon likewise has been stalled off the last 2 years. Demicon likewise, the last 2 years have been virtual. But I think it'd be interesting to do one of the really massive, huge, gigantic cons, just to see what happens.
Yeah.
Table rent on those is insane, but if I had a sponsor, who knows?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, there's always Gen Con. Gen Con has had a vigorous book sales area in the past. I haven't been there in about, let's see, when did I move over here and I'm closer to it now? Yeah, I used to live like 2 hours away from it when I lived in Illinois, and now I live an hour from it, and I've not made it since I've moved over here. So, about 5 years ago. So anyway, Rick Bradley says a group of crows were arrested for hanging out together. The charge, attempted murder. Oh, nice. Brian Rodman says, in my experience, I wouldn't do the show after Thanksgiving. I've been to 2 shows that were around that time, and usually folks don't show up because it's the weekend after Black Friday.
Okay. That's a good thing to keep in mind.
That is good. Well, the last time you and I were in the same building together was the weekend of Black Friday. So.
Oh yeah, and doing the ARL show.
Right. So, that is something to consider, I guess. But I wanted to see you and all the other my friends from Iowa, so I went anyway. Let's see. Did I catch up on everybody's comments so far? Keep your comments coming, and keep that attention on Animal Eye. We are still at 3306, and I'd like to at least hit 3310 before the night is over here. And what is black and white and red all over? A writer's latest draft that ended up in the trash with some V8 juice. And let's see, here we go. And why did the writer cross the road? She was supposed to be revising an essay, so she crossed the road to run some errands and go for a quick walk and maybe buy a new toaster. That sounds far too close. That's it. Those are hitting a little close to home, if you ask me. Now we've got something from BuzzFeed. 19 jokes that writers will probably find funny. Let's see. Here we go. The first rule of writing is to hoard notebooks, and the second rule of writing is we do not write in our notebook hoard. Okay. Anyway, we're gonna move on from that. And yes, and we are at 97% of the goal. I see this on the site here. So yes, so good work, Cindy. Seriously, good work.
Yay.
And we will get back to where we're supposed to be here. And let's see. Here we go. Keisha Acuff says you can always set up at the Varna Farmers Market for free. Varna, the gateway to Washington, Illinois, I think. But anyway, no, that's where Keisha sets up for her art and stuff.
Yay.
Yeah, and see, we got some creative people here. Rick Bradley says, "Have you heard the one about the skunk? Never mind, it really stinks." And Cindy asks Brian Rodman, "Who are some of your top favorite authors?"
Ooh. Let's see here. Janet Kagan. She wrote Mirabile and Hellspark. Gordon R. Dixon, he wrote the Child series. Bruce Hale, who wrote the Chet Gecko series. If you're into film noir and cheesy puns, that's the series for you.
Mm-hmm.
Jude Watson, he wrote the Jedi Apprentice series. Let's see, Victor Hugo. I enjoyed Les Miserables, and I have actually read the unabridged version in English.
Wow.
The 100-page description of the Paris sewer system I could have probably done without.
Yeah.
But the when you get around that, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the story was cool.
Oh my. Oh, well, also you mentioned liking puns. Have you ever read Robert Asprin? Like
I
the
haven't.
Myth Adventure series?
Yeah, that's been recommended, but I haven't had a chance to get into those yet.
Those are horrible puns. You would definitely enjoy them. There's also, it's not fantasy, and I don't know if they have them in print anymore, but there was a Western series back in the 70s called Edge. And a lot of it was sexual, a lot of it was violent, but they had the worst puns in the world at the end of every chapter. And those two guys that were two writers from Great Britain who the only research they had done on the American Old West was watching TV shows that came from America. So it's amazingly inaccurate. It is wonderful. And John B. Pica says, that's my biggest problem with Les Mis. Way too much detail. Well,
yeah.
Yeah, it's if it were something other than a sewer, I might be interested. It's kind of like a friend of mine got the audiobook of, I think it was Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand, and there's some sort of courtroom scene, and said that he would go on a what was it, like a 90-minute walk every day, and it took him like the better part of a week to get through the courtroom scene.
Wow.
Yeah. She went a little bit far on that. So anyway, Rick Bradley asks, what has ears but cannot hear? A cornfield. And Rick Bradley would like to further know, what was the best piece of advice you have ever received, and what was the worst?
The best piece of advice was learn what all the common writing rules are, so that if you're going to break them, make sure you can be sure you have a purpose that's worthy of it. The worst piece of advice I received was to turn all of my stories into romance.
Really?
Yeah. Every time I submitted a story to a particular crit group, one of them people always wrote back, so these two characters should be romantically involved. I was like, no, he's got a fiance, she's got a boyfriend. That ain't happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she was obsessed with all of my stories needed to have a romantic subplot. No, they really don't.
Yeah. Yeah, why force that sort of a relationship?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, wow. The Historical Fencing Guild says, so, you are sitting on the edge of a multimedia empire. Are you ready to be the next Stephen King? Where do you look to go next?
Woo. Well, I hope it becomes a multimedia empire.
That would be nice. I can
Yeah.
tell you when.
Where do I going next? Well, if this game thing takes off, that'll be next. And then after that, it'll be back to more novels and serials and short stories and maybe another comic book or a couple and blasting off into TV or movies might be interesting. But yeah, that sounds like a really big challenge.
Mm-hmm. And it took Stephen King a long time to become Stephen King. So and I think that's one thing that's very unfair. That happens to all of us. I think is the fact that we get compared to the people who are at the pinnacle of our industry.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, comic book artists get, drop a couple of names here, get compared to like, why aren't you Neil Adams? Why aren't you Jack Kirby? Why aren't you fill in the blank? And we get compared to Stephen King or, James Patterson, people who have built their empires and done this for ages. So, but you never know. We might be the next big thing. I'm sure Cindy will be. And the Legend of Traveling TARDIS says, that is the scent of dollar store talcum powder. Thank you very much, Christian Basil. And I had a great time on your show tonight. Please check out the rerun of that on the Legend of Traveling TARDIS. It happens every Tuesday at 6 p.m. And it's a wonderful show. Glad you're here, Christian. Thank you for having me. And Brian Rodman asks, what are your favorite things to consume and gather inspiration for writing? You ask us a lot. What is your favorite snackage? What do you snack on?
Snackage. Well, with all the food allergies that I have to do a diet rotation. So my favorite snackage is whatever is on the menu today. Today it was pineapple. Later in the week there are dates. Last week was peaches. Rice cakes with peanut butter and fruit goos is one of my faves, but that doesn't come up nearly as often as I want it to. I make fruit juice smoothies out of orange juice and berries or some other kind of fruitliness. And those are really tasty, especially if I toss some nuts in there or a piece of a vanilla bean.
Mm-hmm. That's it. Cindy's got the show by herself. I'm going to get something to eat here. That sounds bad. Well, that's the thing. It's like, I make no secret. Cookie has dietary restrictions. Doesn't mean you stop eating good stuff. There's a lot of good things you can still have. And the Legend of Traveling TARDIS says a joke. Hear the rap song that comes from crop fields. Me so corny. Thank you very much. You're going into the sleep. You're going into 30-minute rest mode now. But anyway, I'm just joking. But let's see here. And we still got a few more minutes. Please bring the questions. All right, this is your chance to interrogate Cindy. All right, so but I gotta say, I'm really excited for Animal Eye. This is, I think you should be very proud of this campaign. You've done good, girl.
I'm glad it's going well, and and I attribute a lot of that success to everybody who's been sharing the links out. So I mean, it's most of this group has been doing a lot of the link sharing and posting in different groups, and so
Definitely.
that has been really helpful.
Yeah, well, and there is that link again. I just put in there. Check it out. It is Kickstarter, Animal Eye #1, all ages game lit story where the players become animals. Please check that out and show Cindy some love. I would really like to see her hit that goal sooner than sooner. All right, let's. In fact, if we could get a little closer before the end of the show, that would be wonderful. That'd be swell. And Rick Bradley says, what author would you love to have read one of your books and give feedback? Ooh, that's
actually happened.
Really?
A couple, no, that's now been like 3 or 4 years. There's a yearly event called Realm Makers, and it moves around. A few years ago, it was in St. Louis, and so I road trip down there. Kathy Tyers was one of the special guests, and she was offering critiques. And so you could send her up to 10 pages worth of a novel, and she would give you some detailed feedback on it.
Nice.
I had a Rushalon 2 Into the Open getting ready to enter its final editing stages. And so I sent her a couple page synopsis of part one, because it's not fair to drop someone into the middle of a story.
Right.
And then gave her the first 8 pages of Into the Open, and she gave me some feedback on that. And then I hired her as an editor for the rest of it, because her feedback was really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, it was in the middle of winter. She slipped on ice and broke her hand.
Oh no!
And so she was able to give me a detailed critique on the first half of Into the Open. But her advice was, you're doing the same thing in multiple places. So if you take the advice that I applied to this first half and apply it to the whole thing, you've got it. And so I still have tacked to my filing cabinet a list of her suggestions that I can generalize out to apply to other books.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's great. That is super. Brian Robin, or follow up with Rick Bradley here. What author would you love to have read one of your books and give feedback? Besides all of us, of course.
Naturally.
Well, I will take a modest amount of credit for Animal Eye, the comic book. So, and just to let you know, I think I've said this on the morning show a few times. Cindy was such a super student of the comics form that she got a visit from Dr. Toughlove from the first issue, then came back for more, God help her. And I only had like a handful of things to really point out to her, but at the end of it, I told her, the next draft, don't send it to me, send it to Travis. You're golden. You're ready for prime time. And Animal Eye is the glorious result. So anyway, let's see. Brian Robin would like to know, what comic book has made the biggest impact on you? I don't know how many comics you've read, but
when I was in junior high, I was a huge, massive X-Men fan.
Oh yeah.
And so I collected a lot of the X-Men. I went back and grabbed as many back issues as my junior high and high school budget would allow.
Yeah.
Got several for Christmas presents. So that was lovely.
Yeah.
And so that started me off on writing my own stories in much more detail. I mean, I had previously written a bunch of little short flash stuff. My parents have in a box somewhere in their attic a short story I wrote when I was 7.
Wow.
About a talking dog and his pet cactus.
I love that.
But I wrote some other little stuff here and yonder, but it wasn't until I started reading X-Men that I started writing much more frequently.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of friends and I created our own X-Men characters, and they had their own adventures, and
nice.
And eventually split off from there and kept going.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, do you still have those comics?
No. There was a sad mishap where the bulk of the key issues had to be sold off to take care of a debt. And then later on, the rest of them had to be sold off to take care of an additional debt.
We've all had to do that. We have all had to do that. But fortunately, so much of it still exists, in reprints and digitized form. So the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS asks whether, if you could write about time travel or wanted to, would you write about the past or would you write about the future?
I've done both.
There you go.
In fictional worlds, it hasn't been like real world Earth. But yeah, I've written a time travel story where a couple of characters go back in time to stop someone else from killing a future monarch, because that would change the entire timeline of one of their races.
Nice.
And then I've also written it the other way, where someone from a very fantasy-based technology got shot forward in time 500 years and had to learn how to survive in that environment.
Very cool. Very cool indeed. The Historical Fencing Guild asks, what genre that you haven't written in so far would you want to? Is there a type of genre that you just like to try to maybe see if you could do it right? Or are you in your niche?
I think with Gamelit, I've niched down pretty far. I don't know if I've niched down far enough that I become the obvious choice for it, but yeah, I've worked my way down through that. A genre I've not written. Oh, let's see. I think probably a mystery. Because I enjoyed the Brother Cadfael mysteries and Hercule Poirot and stuff of that ilk, and I think it would be fun to write that. It would be tough. I think that's one of the ones you have to write backwards, or you have to figure out what happened and then build the steps so that you get there.
Right. Yeah, that's what Mickey Spillane used to do. So, so yeah, very cool. And Brian Rodman wants to know: was that Chris Claremont X-Men?
Yeah, again, I'm horrible with names, but that would have been mid '80s.
Chris Claremont, because he wrote them from like issue 96 or so on. I think did the scripting,
that sounds familiar with the numbering that I was collecting live, and then I went back and filled in some gaps previously.
There you go. There you go. You can always rebuild that collection. What narrator, asks the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS, would you like to read your book aloud on stage?
Ooh, that's a good one. I have had an audiobook done of some of my short stories. Avatars of Web Surfer was made into an audiobook, and it was done by George Taylor. And he did a really fabulous job with it, and especially with Fall of the Invincible Man. When I write these things, when I'm writing the dialogue, I can hear the dialogue in my head, and the guy playing Harv, who's the main character for that story, was based off of a friend of mine, and so he had my friend's Midwest accent. Well, George read it as someone from the far northeast, so we had an up east click in the voice, and it was perfect. I would have never guessed that, but I was listening to it like, oh man, that so fits. So fits.
Yeah.
Because it just fit with the character's sarcasm and his wild sense of humor given how well George portrayed that one, it'd be great to hear him do some of the others.
That's great. Maybe you can get him to read some of your other books. That
Could
would be
be
fantastic. And Rick Bradley wants to know, who was your favorite X-Men character?
Nightcrawler.
I agree.
I was fascinated with him because he was one of the few characters who had a religion and was not afraid to show it. Kitty also did, but Nightcrawler could also teleport, and I so wanted to teleport. You have no idea how much I wanted to teleport. I hate traveling. And so being able to teleport from here to there, just skip the whole traveling part, would just, be it.
Yeah, I could see that. Just a little burst of sulfur wherever you go.
Right, yeah.
And Rick Bradley agrees. Nightcrawler is my favorite as well. And Brian Robin says, yes, Nightcrawler is my favorite for the same reasons. Well, yeah, I think he's a character that, I think he comes with or at least when I used to read the X-Men, comes with so little emotional baggage. Aside from some early life trauma, of course, because of his appearance, but for the most part, he was a swashbuckler.
Yeah.
And there isn't enough swashbuckling in comics. So, but anyway, Rick Bradley then asks, why did the kid cross the playground? To get to the other slide. You guys rock. You guys are great.
Yay!
Yay! And let's see. Trying to see if there's let's see. Okay, I can't read these writer jokes. I looked under clean. This site lied.
Oh no.
Yeah,
I've run into a few of those. I look up clean jokes about topic, and I was like, that's not a clean joke.
Yeah.
That's not.
Yeah.
No, that's definitely over 18.
Yeah, way over. It's something I should show a driver's license to be able to say. Here we go. What do you call a writer who doesn't follow the rules of sentence structure? A rebel without a clause. What has 27 actors, 3 settings, 2 writers, and 1 plot? 671 Hallmark movies.
Yep, my stepmom is a fan of those, and that is not wrong.
I would agree. Yeah. And how many mystery writers does it take to change a light bulb? 2. 1 to screw it in most of the way, and another to give it a surprise twist at the end. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay, this isn't that bad. And let's see. Okay. And did you hear about the writer who became a baker? They say he makes excellent synonym rolls.
Just like my grandma used to make.
There we go. See? All right. And let's see. John B. Pica says, Nightcrawler was the character that made me read X-Men. Excellent.
Cool.
Excellent. Yeah. How do you make a lemon drop? Just let it fall, says Rick Bradley. And yeah, how do you get someone to stop swinging on the tire swing? Snip the rope. Brian Rodman says, how is a laser beam similar to a goldfish? Neither one can whistle. Okay. Keep the day job, Brian. Anyway, we have run to the end of our evening here. And I want to, let's see. I've got, okay. Getting anything. Oh, hey. Hello. Trying to watch with no power. Whole area around us seems to be out. Ouch.
Yikes.
I think that may be Nick. Eek. In the metropolis that is Eden Park. Anyway, stay safe, brothers. Stay safe, man. Well, anyway, since we have been asked a whole lot of questions, got a whole lot of jokes, and we've made the needle move a little bit, I think we can call this a successful night. What do you say?
Totally, yeah. We're about $100 closer to the goal, and 20 days left to get there.
Yeah, but I hopefully that you all take a look at the Animal Eye Kickstarter campaign here. We're going to put it back up on the screen one more time. It's a $3,400 goal. We are $94 away from reaching the goal. So please take a look at this. We've got the, I'm going to put the campaign address here. Please check it out. Seriously, check it out. I am a supporter of it. And I hope you are too, because Cindy has done so much for this community, and I think it's time that we pay her back for her love. So please check out Animal Eye. And remember, you will not be charged until the campaign is over when you give your credit card number to Kickstarter. So you got time to like get a second or third job or something, because we want to pledge high. And please check out that video. It is really super. Check out the various thank you gift levels and prepare to be amazed. So we'll take that out of there, get us in a 2-shot here. And Rick Bradley says, thank you for spending time with us, Cindy. It was a blast.
Thank y'all for all the great jokes and the questions, and for sharing out the link to the campaign and backing it. It's been quite a ride.
Yeah, I'd say you're almost to the finish line here. This is great. And Brian Rodman says, BKM, you're just jealous of my anti-joke telling skills. Dang, you found me out, Brian. I am positively burdened with envy. And the Historical Fencing Guild says, for once, it isn't me with tech difficulties. Thanks for coming out. Oh, well, we're sorry it's happening anywhere, but what we aren't sorry about is that Cindy Koepp spent the last couple of hours with us. Cindy, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. I adore you. And one last time, I'm going to let you have the screen in toto here. And please tell everyone how they can keep up with your amazing adventures.
Okay, the easiest place to find me is on my webpage, koepp.com. There you're going to find information about all of my different books and anthologies. There's even a web store where you can buy some of them and even commission some amigurumis. You can also find me on Facebook, facebook.com/KOEPPC, because somebody had my name in the other order already, dirty rats. I have a Patreon page, patreon.com/CKOEPP. And that's probably the best way to get there from here. I do have accounts on some of the other social media services, but I'm rarely there, so that'd be kind of hit or miss. For the next 20 days, you can find me at bit.ly/animaliks. That is the short version of the link to the Kickstarter page. There is a message option there, so you can send me a note that way. And I do appreciate everybody's help. Everybody's been sharing out links and offering feedback and constructive criticism. All the folks who've given me advice and helped me learn how to turn a book into a comic book series. Because this time last year I was less than clueless. But now I have clue. And stay tuned for more adventures. If anything happens with the game negotiations, I'll sure let everybody know. And stay tuned for Animal Eye number 2. The script is done. It's just waiting for approval, and then it'll be off to Raoul for all the snazzy artwork. He said he's been working on improving his craft in between the two of them, and he can't wait to show me what kind of cool stuff he can do now. And one last joke for everybody.
Yay.
You can't run through a campground because it's past tense. You can only ran.
Oh my God, I love it. I love it. I love letting you have the last word here. Cindy Koepp, thank you so much. And let's see, Historical Fencing Guild. And Brian Rodman says it was an absolute joy, Cindy. Have a great night. And the Skunk Rocker, good to see you. Check him out on Stupid O'Clock Thursdays at 9 and Saturdays at 11 p.m. Thank you, Cindy, in all caps.
Woohoo!
Thank you, Skunk. And sincerely, thank you very much, Cindy. I'm going to put you in the background here so I can say good night to you properly, and we'll close out the show, okay?
Okay. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for coming here. I really appreciate it. Appreciate it so much. And so I'm going to take over the screen here, and thank you all for giving Cindy the love. She totally deserves it, and we hope that by morning that you'll take a look at Animal Eye and push it over the $3,400 mark. We've got less than $100 to go, and thank you to everyone who has pledged to that campaign so far. We genuinely appreciate your involvement, and please take a moment and consider increasing your dollar amount, because it would make her happy, and that would be good. So anyway, speaking of good, we want to thank the Rising Tide Broadcast Network for powering this show. Check out the various shows that we have here, 7 days a week, full of entertainment and information. You will dig them all. Please take a screenshot and check out our shows. We've got a whole bunch of them. Tomorrow morning, I have to remember what day it is. Wednesday, that's right. Anyway, tomorrow morning we'll be back with Nevermind the Furthermore. Please check it out. We'll be involved in creative conversation and me drinking a whole lot of coffee. And also, please check out our Patreon. Check out Cindy Koepp's Patreon page at www.patreon.com/CKOEPP. That's her website. I'm going there. Anyway, please check out our Patreon page as well, because we offer you all kinds of things for a modest monthly subscription to our creativity. Thank you for your ongoing support. I'm at www.patreon.com/Brian K. Morris. Hope you'll be there too. Also, please check out my newest books, Snow Ambition, an Abraham Snow adventure, published by Ben Books. It is a great book if you like action adventure, and check it out on Amazon, only 99 cents. Also, check out Cindy Koepp on Amazon as well. And again, big thank you to Cindy Koepp for being here, and a huge thank you to all of you for tuning in tonight. We appreciate you all, and we hope you have a great evening. We'll see you next week on Clever Tile Pending, when our guest will be returning Morgan S. Conmack, who will talk to us about her latest book and all of her publishing stuff. So please check us out next week. We hope you enjoy the show then too. So as always, folks, thank you for being here, and as always, stay smart, stay safe, wash your hands, and never apologize for being awesome. Have a great evening, everyone. We'll see you next week on Clever Title Pending. Take care, everyone.
Author Cindy Koepp is writing on the edge. Books include Remnant in the Stars, The Loudest Actions, Lines of Succession, Mindstorm, Condemned Courier, the Yerushalayim series, and Animal Eye. Find author Cindy Koepp at CKOEPP.com today.